Welcome to the long road. Tonight we begin a new journey, the Shikoku 88 Temple Pilgrimage. Settle in, close your eyes, and let your breathing slow. Let the weight of the day leave your shoulders. There is nowhere else to be. You are on the island of Shikoku in southern Japan. It is late October, and the autumn air is cool and still. Today, you walk 27 kilometers across the Yoshino River Valley, visiting the first 11 temples of an ancient Buddhist pilgrimage that circles the entire island. The path is flat, the temples close together, and the rice paddies stretch gold and brown to the mountains on every side. If you enjoy these walks, subscribe so you do not miss the next one. Now, let us begin. The morning is cool, and the first temple is waiting. The morning is cool and still. You are standing outside Ryōzen-ji, the first temple of the Shikoku pilgrimage, and the air smells of incense and damp stone. It is late October. The sky is a pale, washed blue, the kind of autumn sky that seems higher and further away than summer skies, as though the whole atmosphere has drawn a long breath and stepped back. The town of Bando is quiet at this hour. A few other pilgrims stand near the gate, adjusting their packs, checking the laces on their walking shoes. The main gate of Ryōzen-ji has a large stone marker beside it, carved with the characters for Temple 1. Beyond the gate, a gravel path leads into the compound, lined with stone lanterns green with moss. You are wearing a white jacket, a hakui, the traditional garment of the Henro pilgrim. White is the color of death in Japan, and the pilgrim dresses for burial, symbolically dying to their ordinary life. On your head, a conical sedge hat, a tsujigasa, with 4 characters brushed in black ink along the brim. Dogyo Ninin, 2 traveling together. It means that Kobo Daishi, the great monk who walked this path 1200 years ago, walks beside you. In your right hand, a wooden staff, a Kongo Zue. It is smooth and pale, octagonal in cross-section, with Sanskrit characters carved near the top. The staff is not simply a walking aid. It is Kobo Daishi himself, his physical presence on the road. You must never set it down carelessly. At bridges, you do not tap it on the ground, because Kobo Daishi is said to have once slept beneath a bridge, and the sound might disturb his rest. You bought these things yesterday in the shop beside the temple gate. The shopkeeper, a woman in her 60s with careful hands, helped you choose. She explained each item as she laid it on the counter. The hakui, to remind you that you walk between worlds. The tsujigasa, to shade you from sun and rain. The Kongo Zue, to carry Kobo Daishi with you. The Nokyo-cho, to receive the memory of each temple. She wrapped everything in brown paper and tied it with string, and when she handed it to you, she pressed her palms together and bowed. Ohenro-san, she said, pilgrim, as though the word itself were a blessing. You step through the gate and into the temple compound. The gravel crunches softly underfoot. To your left, a shop sells pilgrim supplies, white jackets, sedge hats, staffs, incense, candles, and the Nokyo-cho, the accordion fold stamp book that will receive a calligraphed entry at each of the 88 temples. The shop owner nods to you as you pass. She has seen 10,000 pilgrims walk through this gate. Ryōzen-ji is a Shingon Buddhist temple, founded in the 8th century by the monk Gyoki. It has burned and been rebuilt more than once. The buildings you see now are Edo period reconstructions, their dark timber frames weathered to a silver gray, their tiled roofs heavy with lichen. But the ground itself has been sacred for over 1,000 years. The same gravel, the same cedars, or their descendants reaching upward in the still air. You wash your hands at the chozuya, the stone water basin near the entrance. The water is cold and clear, fed by a bamboo pipe. You scoop it with a wooden ladle, pour it over your left hand, then your right, then cup a little in your palm and rinse your mouth. The ritual is simple. It is a washing away of the dust of the road and of the dust of the mind. The morning dew is still on the gravel. Each stone catches the light differently, some gray, some brown, some with a faint blue sheen. A spider web stretches between two stone lanterns, its threads beaded with moisture, shining like a net of tiny diamonds. The spider sits at the center, motionless, waiting with a patience that has nothing to do with time. You approach the main hall, the hondo. The building is dark and cool, the air heavy with the smell of old wood and incense smoke. You ring the bell. The bronze tone expands outward, hollow and deep, spreading over the compound and fading slowly into the morning air. You light a stick of incense, the tip glowing orange, and set it in the sand of the censer. A thin thread of smoke rises straight up in the windless air, sandalwood and aloes wood, the smell of every temple you will visit for the next 1,000 kilometers. You place a small slip of paper, an osamefuda, into the wooden box by the entrance. Your name is written on it, and a prayer. Then you begin to chant the Heart Sutra, the Hanya Shingyo. 262 characters. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. The words are half spoken, half sung, a low murmur that blends with the murmur of the other pilgrims around you. You will chant this sutra at every temple, 88 times, the same words, until they cease to be words and become something closer to breathing. After the main hall, you visit the Daishi-do, the hall dedicated to Kobo Daishi. Every temple on the circuit has one. You repeat the ritual incense, candle, osamefuda, chanting. Then you walk to the Nokyo-sho, the stamp office, where a calligrapher sits behind a low desk. He takes your stamp book, opens it to the first blank page, and begins to write. Bold, black brush strokes, flowing and precise. The temple name, the date, the Sanskrit seed character for the temple's Buddha. A vermilion stamp seal, pressed firmly into the paper. Your first entry. 87 more to come. The Shikoku pilgrimage follows 88 temples associated with the monk Kukai, who was born on this island in the year 774. He traveled to China as a young man, where he received the esoteric teachings of Shingon Buddhism, a tradition that blended Buddhist philosophy with Taoist ritual, Sanskrit mantra, and the ascetic practices of Japanese mountain monks. He returned to Japan and spent decades establishing temples, digging wells, building bridges, and teaching. He is remembered as Kobo Daishi, the Grand Master who spread the Dharma. The pilgrimage route circles the entire island of Shikoku, passing through all 4 of its ancient provinces. Awa, which is now Tokushima, where you stand. Tosa, which is Kochi to the south. Iyo, which is Ehime to the west. And Sanuki, which is Kagawa to the north. Each province corresponds to a stage of Buddhist enlightenment. Awa is Hoshin, the awakening of faith. The first 23 temples belong to this province. The temples here are close together, allowing the new pilgrim to find a rhythm before the distances grow longer and the mountains steeper. You stand outside the stamp office and look at the first page of your Nokyo-cho. The ink is still wet, the characters glistening slightly in the light. The calligrapher's hand was steady, each stroke confident, beginning thick and tapering to a point. The brush lifted cleanly from the paper at the end of each line. You blow on the page gently to dry the ink, and close the book carefully, pressing the covers together. Ryōzen-ji became Temple 1 largely by accident of geography. It was the nearest temple to the ferry landing where pilgrims from Osaka and Kobe arrived on Shikoku. The numbering is a convention, not a command. The circuit can be walked in either direction, and some pilgrims walk it in reverse, a practice called yaku-uchi for additional spiritual merit, but most begin here at this gate on a morning like this one. You step back through the gate and onto the street. The town of Bando surrounds you, small and quiet. The streets near the temple are lined with shops selling henro supplies, their signs hand-painted, their awnings faded by sun and rain. Beyond the shops, the residential streets begin, low houses with tiled roofs, garden walls of gray stone, a persimmon tree in a courtyard, heavy with bright orange fruit against the bare branches. In autumn, persimmons glow like small lanterns all across the Yoshino Valley. The walk to Temple 2 is barely 1 kilometer. The path follows residential streets through Bondo, past houses and small gardens. A gray heron stands in a drainage channel between the last rice paddies on the edge of town, absolutely motionless, watching the shallow water for movement. The rice has already been harvested. The stubble is golden brown, and straw has been bundled into conical stacks to dry, dotting the fields like miniature haystacks. Red dragonflies hover over the harvested fields, aka tambo. They are the symbol of autumn in Japan, and they are everywhere this morning, suspended in the still air above the stubble, their bodies catching the low sunlight like drops of rust. In summer, they live in the mountains. In autumn, they descend to the lowlands, and for a few weeks the rice paddies belong to them. Gokuraku-ji, Temple 2, the Temple of Paradise. You arrive after 10 minutes of walking, a small, intimate temple set behind a low stone wall. The compound is shaded by ancient cedar trees, their trunks dark and shaggy with bark, their canopy filtering the morning light into soft green. The garden is said to represent the pure land of Amida Buddha, the paradise of the Western Quarter, where the faithful are reborn after death in a landscape of lotus ponds and jeweled trees. The smell of the harvested fields is warm and dry. It is the smell of cut straw and sun-baked earth mixed with a faint sweetness from the drainage channels where algae grows in the shallow water. A kingfisher flashes along the edge of a channel, electric blue and orange, gone before your eye can fully register it, leaving only a streak of color in your memory. The path follows a concrete embankment for a short distance. Below you, the paddy fields stretch out in a grid of perfect rectangles, separated by low earth berms. The geometry is precise, the work of generations of farmers shaping the land to hold water at exactly the right depth during the growing season. Now that the rice is harvested, the fields are dry, the mud cracked in places, the stubble pale gold under the climbing sun. A farm truck passes you slowly on the narrow road, its bed piled with harvested daikon radishes, long and white, their green tops drooping over the sides. The driver raises a hand from the steering wheel in greeting. You raise your hand in return. On Shikoku, the Henro pilgrim is a familiar sight, especially in autumn, and the locals acknowledge you with a nod, a wave, sometimes a shout of ganbate, keep going, do your best, from across a field. You repeat the ritual, wash hands at the basin, ring the bell, light incense, place your osame fuda, chant the Heart Sutra, visit the Daishido, receive your stamp. The sequence is the same at every temple, and it will become the rhythm of your days. By the 10th temple, the movements will be automatic. By the 30th, they will be meditative. By the 80th, they will be something you no longer think about at all, like breathing, like the placing of one foot in front of the other. The walk from Temple 2 to Temple 3 is 3 kilometers through flat farmland. The path follows a paved road between rice paddies, the harvested fields stretching away on both sides to the foothills of the Shikoku Mountains. The mountains are low and green, their slopes covered in dense forest. A crow calls from a cedar top, then another. The harsh, deep cry of the jungle crow, the karasu, is the signature sound of rural Japan. It follows you everywhere on the island. The sun is climbing now, and the air is warming. You can feel it on the back of your neck, a gentle autumn warmth that has none of summer's weight. The light is golden across the fields, cosmos flowers line the road, pink and white, their thin stems bending slightly in a breeze you can barely feel. They are the last flowers of autumn. In a few weeks, the first frost will take them. The Yoshino River plain stretches out around you. It is an alluvial floodplain, built up over millennia by sediment carried down from the Shikoku Mountains. The soil is deep and dark and rich, and it is why this valley has grown rice for as long as anyone can remember. The river itself is out of sight, somewhere to the south, hidden behind embankments and rows of trees, but you can feel its presence in the flatness of the land, in the geometry of the irrigation channels that cross the fields in neat, straight lines. Ryōzen-ji, Temple 3, 4 kilometers from the start. You see the 5-story pagoda before you see the temple, its dark silhouette rising above the rooftops of the surrounding houses. It is one of the few pagodas on the pilgrimage route, and it draws the eye from a great distance across the flat plain, a vertical mark in a horizontal landscape. You pass a small shrine at the roadside, barely more than a wooden box on a stone pedestal, its miniature roof tiled, its doors closed. A tiny offering sits before it, a mandarin orange and a cup of sake. These roadside shrines are everywhere in rural Japan, marking boundaries, crossroads, and places where something happened long ago that no one remembers anymore. They are tended by whoever lives nearby, swept clean, offerings replaced when they spoil. A small act of care repeated daily by people who may not even know why. The temple complex is large. The main hall was rebuilt in the Edo period, the timber darkened by centuries of rain and sun, the tiled roof curving upward at the corners in the Chinese style. A massive camphor tree, a kusunoki, stands in the courtyard, its trunk gnarled and split with age, its canopy spreading wide and evergreen. Camphor trees can live for 1,000 years, and some of the oldest ones on Shikoku are found in temple grounds where they have been left undisturbed for generations. You complete the ritual and receive your stamp. The calligrapher works quickly, his brush strokes confident and unhesitating. Each temple's calligrapher has a different hand, and by the end of the pilgrimage, your stamp book will contain 88 entries, each one unique, each one a record of a moment, the light in the room, the smell of ink, the soft click and hiss of the brush on paper. From Temple 3 to Temple 4, 2 kilometers, the path leaves the main road and follows a narrow lane through a residential area. Small Japanese houses with sliding doors and low-tiled roofs. A woman is hanging laundry on a line in her garden. A cat sleeps on a warm stone step. The ordinariness of it settles around you like a familiar coat. Dainichi-ji, Temple 4. Dedicated to Dainichi Nyorai, the cosmic Buddha of Shingon Buddhism. Dainichi is not a historical figure like Shakyamuni, the Buddha who sat under the Bodhi tree. Dainichi is the universe itself, the fundamental reality that underlies all things, the light that illuminates without being seen. In Shingon teaching, everything that exists is an expression of Dainichi, and the purpose of practice is to recognize this, to see through the surface of things to the radiance beneath. The road between temples is where the pilgrimage lives. The temples are the punctuation, the pauses, the moments of ritual and stillness, but the road between them is the sentence itself, the long, unbroken flow of walking and breathing and noticing. A puddle reflecting the sky, a dog sleeping in a doorway, the shadow of a power line crossing the path, the ordinary world, seen at walking pace, which is the only pace at which the ordinary world reveals itself fully. An elderly woman steps out of her house as you pass and offers you a small cellophane bag of hard sweets, setai. She bows slightly, and you bow in return, accepting the gift with both hands. She smiles and says something in the Awa dialect that you do not quite catch, but her meaning is clear. Walk well, be safe. The sweets are lemon-flavored, bright yellow, and when you unwrap one and place it on your tongue, the sharp sweetness is startling and good. The approach to the temple is along a lane lined with Jizo statues, small stone figures, each about knee height, each wearing a red bib knotted at the neck. Jizo is the bodhisattva who protects travelers and children, especially children who have died. The red bibs are placed by parents in mourning or by those who wish for a safe journey. The statues are old, their features softened by rain and lichen, but the bibs are fresh, bright red cotton, recently tied. Someone is still tending to them. You complete the ritual at Dainichi-ji and walk on. 6 kilometers behind you now. The morning is fully established, the sun warm on your shoulders, the air bright and still. A Japanese white-eye, a Majuro, darts through the garden as you leave, a flash of bright green against the dark cedar bark. These small birds are everywhere in temple gardens, quick and restless, darting from branch to branch with a high, thin call that sounds like a question asked very quickly. 2 more kilometers to Temple 5. The path crosses a narrow farm lane edged with drainage channels. The water in the channels is shallow and slow, catching the light. You pass through the farming community of Itano, where persimmon trees stand in every other garden, heavy with fruit. Some of the persimmons have been left unpicked on the highest branches, offerings for the birds. The custom is old. You take what you need and leave the rest. Jizoji, Temple 5, 8 kilometers. A modest temple with a worn stone stairway leading up to the main hall. Old pine trees stand in the courtyard, their branches spreading horizontally, shaped by decades of careful pruning. The bark is dark and deeply furrowed, and the needles are long and soft, moving slightly in the air. Moss covers the stone lanterns along the path, thick and vivid green, the kind of moss that only grows where the air is clean and damp, and the stone has been left undisturbed for a very long time. You cross a small irrigation canal on a flat stone bridge, barely 2 meters long. The water below is shallow and clear, moving slowly through a channel lined with smooth stones. Watercress grows at the edges, dark green, its small white flowers already gone for the season. The canal runs straight through the paddies, part of a network that has distributed water across this valley for centuries, a system so old and so well maintained that it requires almost no attention, just the occasional clearing of a blockage, the seasonal opening and closing of sluice gates. You are a third of the way now. 8 kilometers walked, 19 to go. Your body is settling into the walk. The initial stiffness in your legs has loosened. The pack on your back has found its balance point. The Kongo-zu staff taps the ground in a steady rhythm that matches your stride, a metronome for the walking meditation. The concept of setai accompanies you as you walk. Setai is the practice of giving alms to pilgrims, deeply rooted in Shikoku culture. Locals offer tea, fruit, sweets, or small coins to passing henro. A farmer might leave a basket of mandarins at the roadside with a handwritten note. A shop owner might wave you in for a cup of green tea. To refuse setai is considered rude because the act of giving generates karmic merit for the giver. And there is always the possibility, according to tradition, that Kobo Daishi himself may appear in the guise of a pilgrim. To serve a stranger is to serve the master. The rhythm of the pilgrimage is already establishing itself. Walk, arrive, wash, ring, light, chant, stamp, walk again. Each temple is a rest, a pause, a small island of stillness in the flow of walking. And then you step out of the gate and the walking resumes, and the world opens up again, the sky above, the path ahead, the fields on either side, and the staff tapping its steady beat on the ground beside you. 2 kilometers from Temple 5 to Temple 6. The path follows a quiet road through farmland, the fields flat and golden with harvested stubble. The smell of wood smoke drifts from a farmhouse chimney, mixed with the dry, sweet smell of rice straw. A bush warbler calls from a thicket, its distinctive 2-note song carrying clearly in the still air. A rising whistle followed by a falling trill, one of the most recognizable bird songs in Japan. And Raku-ji, Temple 6, the Temple of Peaceful Rest, 10 kilometers from the start, halfway to today's end. The temple is known for its thatched roof gate, the Kayabuki Mon, one of the most photographed structures on the pilgrimage. The thatch is deep and dark, packed tight with ferns and moss growing along the ridgeline. It has the look of something that grew here rather than something that was built. And Ryōzen-ji is famous for its shukubo, its temple lodging. Pilgrims who stay the night sleep on tatami mats in simple rooms, eat shojin ryori, Buddhist vegetarian cuisine, and wake to the sound of the morning bell and the monks chanting. The food is precise and beautiful. Small dishes of tofu, pickled vegetables, miso soup, rice, a slice of simmered pumpkin, a few leaves of spinach dressed with sesame, no meat, no fish, no garlic, no onion. Each dish prepared as an act of mindfulness. The temple takes its name from a story of sorrow. During the Kamakura period, 2 court ladies came here searching for their exiled father. They traveled across mountains and rivers, following rumors and fading trails, only to learn that he had already died. They shaved their heads, took vows, and became nuns at this temple. They lived here for the rest of their lives. The name Anrakuji, the Temple of Peaceful Rest, commemorates the peace they eventually found after all the searching was done. You stand in the courtyard for a moment after receiving your stamp. The shade of the cedar trees is cool. The incense smoke drifts slowly through the branches. Somewhere in the compound, a door slides open on its wooden track, and you hear the soft sound of someone sweeping a stone path with a bamboo broom. The rhythm is steady and unhurried. Sweep, pause, sweep, pause. The most ordinary sound in the world, and one of the most calming. Back on the road, the sun is high now and the warmth is at its fullest, though it is still the gentle warmth of autumn, not the pressing heat of summer. You walk south and west, following the path through the edge of the Yoshino Valley. The mountains are closer here, their lower slopes covered in bamboo groves. You can hear the bamboo before you see it, a dry creaking sound as the pale green culms sway against each other in the wind, and the rustle of their leaves, which is lighter and more papery than the rustle of any other tree. 3 kilometers from Temple 6 to Temple 7. The path crosses a concrete bridge over a small river, a tributary of the Yoshino. The water is clear and shallow, sliding over rounded stones. A few koi carp hold steady in the current near the bank, their orange and white markings vivid against the dark stream bed. You pause on the bridge and watch them for a moment. You do not tap your staff. Kobodeshi is said to have slept under a bridge, and pilgrims honor this by crossing in silence. You pass through a stretch of road lined with houses where the town of Awa begins. The houses here are old, tile-roofed, their walls plastered white between dark timber frames. The traditional Awa style. Behind low stone walls, small gardens are planted with chrysanthemums, white and yellow, the flowers of autumn. A grandmother is tending her garden, moving slowly between the beds with a pair of pruning shears, cutting spent blooms and placing them in a basket at her feet. The old Tosa Kaido Road passes through here, the historical highway that once connected the provinces of Awa and Tosa. Samurai and merchants and pilgrims walked this road for centuries. The paving stones are gone now, replaced by asphalt, but the route is the same, winding between the same hills, following the same river valley that travelers have followed since before anyone thought to write it down. Jurakuji, Temple 7, 13 kilometers from the start, halfway. A small temple set among rice paddies with views back to the mountains on both sides of the valley. The compound is modest, a few low buildings arranged around a gravel courtyard. A lotus pond sits at the center, but the lotus flowers are long gone by October, their broad leaves withered to brown discs on the water's surface, their seed heads standing on dry stalks like small wooden cups. The lotus is the symbol of Buddhist enlightenment. It grows in mud, in the dark water at the bottom of a pond, and rises through the murk to bloom on the surface, pure and white and untouched by the filth below. The teaching is simple. Enlightenment does not require escape from the world. It grows within the world, rooted in suffering, rising through it, opening in the light. You eat something. A rice ball wrapped in seaweed, bought from a convenience store in Bando before you started. The rice is cold and slightly sticky, the seaweed thin and salty. You eat it standing in the shade of a persimmon tree, watching the dragonflies over the paddies. A feral cat watches you from the temple steps, its eyes half closed, its body relaxed in a patch of warm sunlight. It has no interest in your rice ball. It has its own concerns. The walk from Temple 7 to Temple 8 is 3 kilometers, and the landscape begins to change. The flat rice plain gives way to gentle hills. The road narrows and tilts upward. Trees close in on both sides, first bamboo, then cedar, the tall cryptomeria with their shaggy red-brown bark and dark, dense canopy. The temperature drops as you enter the shade. After hours on the open plain, the coolness is sudden and welcome, and it carries the sharp, resinous smell of cedar sap. Kumadani-ji, Temple 8, 16 kilometers. Nestled at the mouth of a forested valley, where the flat plain meets the foothills, a stone stairway climbs through the cedars to the main hall. The steps are worn smooth by centuries of feet, their edges rounded, their surfaces dark with moisture. Moss fills the joints between the stones. You climb slowly, your staff tapping each step, the sound echoing against the hillside. At the top of the stairs, you ring the temple bell. The bronze tone is different here than at the temples below. It is deeper, richer, and it rolls outward through the valley, bouncing off the hillsides and returning to you a moment later, slightly altered, as though the mountains have answered. The echo fades slowly, absorbed by the trees, until there is nothing left but the sound of wind in the cedars and the distant call of a crow. The cedars are Cryptomeria japonica, shugi in Japanese, the national tree of the country. They were planted in temple approaches centuries ago, their straight trunks and dense canopy creating natural corridors of shade and silence. The oldest ones are enormous, their trunks 4 or 5 meters in circumference, their bark hanging in long, shaggy strips of red-brown fiber. When the wind moves through them, they sway with a deep creaking sound, the sound of enormous weight shifting slowly. Shikoku sits on the Eurasian tectonic plate, at the boundary with the Philippine Sea Plate. The island's mountainous interior was thrust upward by the compression of these 2 enormous slabs of rock grinding against each other, the same forces that cause earthquakes throughout the region. The mountains you see from the temple steps were once the floor of an ancient sea. The limestone in some of the cliffs contains the fossilized shells of creatures that lived in warm, shallow water millions of years ago, now lifted high above the valley floor. In some temple gardens on Shikoku, you find blue-green stones called aoishi. They are chlorite schist, a metamorphic rock formed under intense pressure deep in the subduction zone where the tectonic plates meet. The pressure transformed ordinary sedimentary rock into something dense and beautiful, streaked with blue and green, cool to the touch. These stones are prized in Japanese garden design, and seeing one in a temple courtyard is like seeing a piece of the island's deep geological history, brought to the surface and placed among the raked gravel as though it belongs there, which of course it does. The path between temples 9 and 10 passes through the heart of the Awa countryside. The houses here are older, their plastered walls yellowed with age, their gardens enclosed by hedges of camellia and osmanthus. The osmanthus is in bloom, its tiny golden flowers releasing a fragrance so sweet and heavy that it stops you mid-stride. Kinmokusei, the golden osmanthus. Its scent is one of the defining smells of Japanese autumn, appearing suddenly in late October, lasting only a week or 2, and then vanishing until the following year. You descend the stone steps of Kumadani-ji and continue walking. 3 more kilometers to Temple 9. The path follows a road through the foothills, climbing gently. The cedars give way to mixed forest, and the first Japanese maples appear at the roadside, their leaves turning crimson and amber. Against the dark bark of the cedars, the maple leaves seem to burn with their own light, bright and delicate and temporary. In a few weeks, they will fall. For now, they are perfect. The rustle of your white hakui jacket in the breeze. The steady tap of the kongozu on the road. the crunch of gravel underfoot where the pavement gives way to a farm track. These are the sounds of the pilgrimage, the sounds that have accompanied millions of walkers on this path over the centuries. The pilgrimage likely began as a Yamabushi practice, a discipline of the mountain ascetics, in the Heian period, more than 1,000 years ago. It became popular among ordinary people in the Edo period, when improved roads and the relative peace of the Tokugawa era made long-distance walking pilgrimages feasible for the first time. You can hear water somewhere below the temple, a stream running through the valley floor, its sound a constant murmur under the bird song and the wind. Moving water is the background music of the Shikoku pilgrimage. Every valley has its river, every hill its stream, and the sound follows you everywhere. Sometimes close and loud over rocks, sometimes distant and soft through trees. Always present, always moving. Ryōzen-ji, Temple 9, 19 kilometers. A hilltop temple with a reclining Buddha statue, a Nihonzo, representing the moment of the Buddha's passing into nirvana. The figure is carved in stone, lying on its right side, one hand supporting the head, the eyes closed, the expression utterly peaceful. The reclining posture is not death but transition, the final release from the cycle of birth and suffering, the crossing into a stillness that has no end. From the courtyard of Ryōzen-ji, you can see the valley you have been walking through all day. The Yoshino River plain stretches out below, a patchwork of harvested rice fields, dark green patches of forest, and the clustered rooftops of small towns. The mountains rise on both sides, blue-gray in the afternoon haze. You can trace the path you have walked, from Bando in the northeast, through the flat fields, to the foothills where you stand now. It is a long way to have come. It does not feel long. The temples measured it for you, breaking the distance into small, manageable pieces. The afternoon light is golden and long. Shadows stretch across the temple courtyard. A Japanese white-eye sings from a pine branch, its song a rapid, liquid trill. The air is cooling now, the first hint of evening in the breeze. You can feel it on your arms, on the back of your hands, a faint chill that was not there an hour ago. 3 kilometers from Temple 9 to Temple 10. The path descends from the hill, crosses a small valley, and then begins to climb again. The climb to Kirihara-ji is the steepest of the day, a stone stairway of 333 steps through dense forest. You see the stairs before you understand them, a narrow channel cut into the hillside, climbing straight upward through the trees until it vanishes into the green darkness above. A butterfly passes through the courtyard, pale yellow, moving in the erratic, purposeless way that butterflies move, as though it has nowhere to be and all the time in the world to not be there. You watch it until it disappears over the temple wall into the valley below. There is something about a butterfly in autumn that carries a particular weight. It will not survive the winter. This flight, this afternoon, this courtyard, is all the time it has, and it moves through that time without urgency, without fear, without any apparent awareness that it is brief. You begin to climb. The steps are old stone, uneven, slick with moisture and moss. The forest closes around you, old-growth cedar and cypress, their trunks rising straight and tall, blocking the sky. The light filters down through the canopy in pale shafts, green-tinted, the color of light at the bottom of a pool. The air smells of wet earth and cedar resin and the faint mushroom scent of decaying leaves. It is cool here, almost cold, and quiet in a way that feels deliberate, as though the forest has chosen silence. Your breath deepens as you climb. The steps are steep, and your legs, which have walked 22 kilometers today, feel the effort. The Congo Zoo staff finds each step before you do, testing the surface, anchoring your weight. Tap, step, tap, step. The rhythm slows but does not stop. Other pilgrims have left small offerings on some of the steps, a coin, a wildflower, a pebble placed with intention. You pass them without disturbing them. Kirihata-ji, Temple 10, 22 kilometers. According to legend, Kukai met a woman here who was weaving cloth. The temple takes its name from the story. Kirihata means cut cloth. The details have been worn smooth by retelling over 12 centuries, but the name remains. And the temple sits high on the hill in its grove of ancient trees, as though it has been here since the weaving and the cutting, and the meeting of the monk and the woman in the forest. The forest around the temple is old growth. Cedar and cypress, their trunks massive, some of them wide enough that two people could not link arms around them. The bark is deeply furrowed, dark red-brown, and the canopy is so thick that very little grows on the forest floor, just moss and ferns, and the occasional cluster of pale mushrooms emerging from a rotting log. The silence here is different from the silence of the valley below. It is deeper, older, layered with centuries of fallen needles and undisturbed decay. You complete the ritual at Kirihata-ji. The calligrapher here is an older man with thin, precise hands. He writes slowly, each stroke deliberate, the brush held vertical. The ink glistens on the cream paper of your Nokiocho. 10 stamps now, 10 pages filled with brush calligraphy and red seal impressions. Each one a little different, each one a record of a moment you stood still in a place that was sacred to someone once and still is. You descend the 333 steps. The descent is harder on the knees than the climb. You take it slowly, the staff bracing each step, the moss-covered stones requiring care. The forest thins as you come down, and the late afternoon light reaches you again, warm and golden through the thinning canopy. A Japanese maple at the edge of the forest blazes crimson, a single tree lit up by a shaft of low sunlight, impossibly vivid against the dark cedars behind it. 5 kilometers remain. The path from Temple 10 to Temple 11 follows a dirt track through bamboo groves, then a paved road through the outskirts of a small town. Your legs are tired now, and you feel them with each step. The weight of 22 kilometers in the muscles of your thighs, the gentle ache in the arches of your feet. But it is a good tiredness, the tiredness of the body doing what it was made to do. Walking. Simply walking. You pass through the town of Kamojima, a settlement on the Yoshino River. Kamojima was once the center of Japan's indigo industry. The Yoshino Valley was the country's greatest indigo-producing region during the Edo period, and the dye houses lined these streets, their wooden vats filled with dark blue liquid, the air heavy with the sharp, fermented smell of the dye. The industry has mostly gone now, but some workshops remain, and you can still see the blue-stained wooden buildings of old dye houses along the back streets, their timbers darkened to a deep navy that no amount of weathering will remove. The indigo plant AI was grown in the rich alluvial soil of the Yoshino floodplain. The leaves were composted in wooden vats with lye and ash, left to ferment for months, stirred daily until the liquid turned a deep, intense blue. The dye was used for everything: kimonos, work clothes, banners, the blue and white furoshiki wrapping cloths that are still used in Japan today. Indigo-dyed cloth was said to repel insects and snakes, which made it practical as well as beautiful, a color born from patience and mud and time. The bamboo grove thins and the path emerges into open farmland again. The light is low and warm, casting long shadows across the road. A line of tea bushes follows the contour of a hillside to your left, their dark green rows precise and geometric, the work of careful pruning. Beyond them, a stand of persimmon trees, their fruit glowing in the last strong light of the afternoon, so vivid they look almost artificial, like ornaments hung on bare branches. You pass a Henro Goya, a small rest shelter for pilgrims built at the roadside by a local farmer or community group. It is a simple structure, 3 walls and a roof, a wooden bench inside, and a handwritten sign that says Ohenro-son dozo, please, pilgrim, rest here. Someone has left a thermos of hot tea and 2 paper cups. You pour yourself a cup. The tea is green and bitter and exactly what you need. You sit for a few minutes, letting the warmth spread through your hands and down into your chest. At the bottom of the stairs, you pause and look back up. The stairway disappears into the forest above, the upper steps already lost in green shadow. You have climbed up and come back down, and the temple at the top is invisible from here, hidden in its grove, as though it exists only for those who make the effort to reach it. This is the nature of mountain temples. They do not come to you. You must go to them. The sun is low now, the shadows long and blue. The air has cooled noticeably. You can feel autumn in it, the dry, clean smell of fallen leaves and cooling stone. A few tea bushes grow in neat low hedgerows on a hillside to your right, their dark green leaves dense and glossy. Tea country begins here, at the edge of the foothills, where the soil is well drained and the morning mists linger. The path rises gently through the last stretch of farmland. The foothills are close now, dark with forest, and beyond them the mountains of central Shikoku rise in layered ridges, fading from green to blue to gray against the sky. Tomorrow, those mountains will be your path. Tomorrow, the trail climbs to Ryōzen-ji, Temple 12, at 700 meters along the steepest and most demanding section of the early pilgrimage. But that is tomorrow. Tonight, there is one more temple. Fujii-dera, Temple 11, 27 kilometers, the last temple of the first day. The name means Wisteria Temple, after the Fuji that blooms here in spring, its purple clusters hanging from the ancient arbor like bunches of grapes. In autumn, the wisteria is bare, its twisted vines gray and woody, but the maples in the precinct have taken over, their leaves turning red and gold, catching the last of the evening light. You enter through the Sanmon, the main gate, passing between the fierce Neo-Guardian statues in their alcoves. The guardians have open mouths and closed mouths, representing the first and last sounds of the Sanskrit alphabet, the beginning and end of all things. They have stood here for centuries, wooden, painted, rain-worn, their fierce expressions unchanged by time. They guard the entrance to the sacred. You pass between them and into the quiet beyond. The compound is peaceful in the late afternoon light. The main hall stands at the far end of the gravel courtyard, its tiled roof curving upward, its timber frame dark with age. Stone lanterns line the approach, each one different, each one placed by a different donor over the centuries. Some are tall and slender, others low and wide, their surfaces rough with lichen. The gravel underfoot is raked into careful patterns, straight lines and gentle curves, the marks of a bamboo rake drawn through the stones that morning by someone who will draw them again tomorrow. You complete the ritual for the last time today. Wash, ring, light, place, chant. The words of the Heart Sutra are already more familiar than they were this morning. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. You have chanted them 11 times today, and each time the words have settled a little deeper, like stones sinking into soft ground. They are not yet automatic, but they are no longer strange. The calligrapher at Fujii-dera writes your 11th stamp. The brush moves quickly, the characters flowing one into the next. Black ink on cream paper, the vermilion seal pressed down firmly at the end. 11 entries in your Nokyo-cho. 11 temples visited. 77 remain. The book is barely a tenth full, but it already feels like something valuable, something that records not just places, but the quality of the light in each place, the sound of each bell, the smell of incense in rooms you will never enter again. This is where pilgrims traditionally prepare for what comes next. Tomorrow, the trail to Temple 12 climbs 12 kilometers into the mountains through the section called Henro Korogashi, the pilgrim tumble, where the path is so steep that pilgrims stumble and fall. It is the first real test of the journey. Many pilgrims spend the night here at Fujii-dera, gathering strength, washing their clothes, mending their shoes, and thinking about the climb ahead. But for now, the climb is far away. For now there is the temple garden in the evening light. Maple leaves falling slowly through the still air, drifting like red and gold fragments of something larger that has come apart. The last warmth of the day on your face. The smell of incense fading into the smell of cedar and cooling stone. The pilgrims who arrived before you are settling in for the night. Through an open window of the shukubo, you can see a room with tatami floors and futons laid out in neat rows. A pair of walking shoes sits by the door, placed carefully side by side. The shoes are dusty and worn, the shoes of someone who has been walking for days, not hours. Not everyone begins at Temple 1. Some pilgrims have been walking for weeks, having started at a different point on the circuit, and they pass through here with quiet confidence, their movements practiced, their packs lighter than yours. The gravel in the courtyard holds the last warmth of the day. You can feel it through the soles of your shoes, a faint residual heat rising from the stones that absorb the afternoon sun. In an hour it will be gone and the gravel will be cold, and the dew will begin to settle. But for now this small warmth from below and the cool air from above meet at the level of your ankles, and you stand in the boundary between them, between the day that is ending and the night that is beginning. You find a bench at the edge of the courtyard and sit down. Your legs are grateful for the rest. 27 kilometers is not a great distance for an experienced walker, but it is far enough for a first day, and your body knows it. The muscles in your thighs are warm and heavy. The arches of your feet pulse gently. You set the kangozu staff beside you, leaning it carefully against the bench. Even now you do not set it on the ground carelessly. Kobo Daishi travels with you, and you treat his presence with respect. The sky is turning from gold to pink to pale violet. The mountains to the east are dark silhouettes now, and the first star appears above the ridge, a single point of white in the deepening blue. The evening is coming on softly, the way autumn evenings do, without drama, just a slow dimming, a gradual cooling, a gentle withdrawal of the light. You think about the day, 11 temples, 27 kilometers, 10 stamps in your book. You think about the incense, the bell, the chanting, the calligrapher's brush. You think about the gray heron in the drainage channel, the red dragonflies over the stubble, the cat on the warm steps, the persimmons glowing orange on bare branches. You think about the 333 stone steps and the way the light filtered green through the old-growth cedar and the sound of the bell at Kumadani-ji echoing off the hillside. You think about Kukai, who walked this path 1,200 years ago, a young monk with a burning mind who went to China and came back with a vision of the universe as a single, luminous intelligence expressing itself through all things, mountains and rivers and insects and stars, stone and water and fire and wind. All of it, Dainichi, all of it radiant, all of it whole. The pilgrimage does not ask you to believe this. It does not ask you to believe anything. It asks only that you walk, that you place one foot in front of the other, that you visit each temple and perform the ritual and receive the stamp and move on. The walking itself is the practice, the repetition is the prayer, and over time, over days and weeks and hundreds of kilometers, the walking wears a groove in the mind, a channel for something quieter and deeper than thought to flow through. The temple bell sounds in the distance, one of the nearby temples, ringing for evening. The tone is slow and deep, each strike followed by a long silence in which the vibration fades into the air, absorbed by the trees and the stone and the gathering dusk. Then another strike, then another. The intervals are perfectly spaced, each one long enough for the previous note to die completely before the next one is born. The light is almost gone now. The courtyard is blue and gray, the stone lanterns dark shapes against the gravel. A last crow flies overhead, a black silhouette against the violet sky, heading for its roost in the cedars. The feral cats emerge from wherever they have been sleeping all afternoon and pad silently across the gravel, heading for the kitchen where the monks will set out scraps. Somewhere in the temple compound, a monk is chanting the evening sutra. The voice is low and rhythmic, rising and falling in a pattern that has been unchanged for centuries. The words are Sanskrit filtered through Chinese, filtered through Japanese, each layer of translation adding its own music, until the sound is no longer any particular language but something more fundamental, a vibration that the body recognizes even when the mind does not. A breeze moves through the maples. The leaves stir, whispering against each other, a sound so light it is barely audible, but in the stillness of the evening it carries clearly. A single leaf detaches and spirals down slowly, turning as it falls, red on one side and gold on the other, catching the last light before it lands silently on the gravel at your feet. You are tired, pleasantly, deeply tired, the tiredness that comes only from walking a long way through open country, from breathing cool air and moving through changing light and standing in quiet places. It is the tiredness that precedes the best kind of sleep, the sleep that has no dreams, no tossing, no waking in the dark, just a long, slow descent into warmth and stillness. Tomorrow, the mountain. Tomorrow, the steep trail through forest to Ryōzen-ji, the sound of your breath and the tap of the staff on the steep path, the world falling away below you as you climb, but that is tomorrow. Tonight, the first day is done. 11 temples visited, 27 kilometers walked. The first pages of your Nokyocho filled with brush calligraphy and vermilion seals. You sit on the bench in the temple courtyard and let the evening settle around you. The air is cool and still. The stars are appearing one by one, emerging from the darkening sky like lights being lit in distant rooms. The maple leaves are dark shapes now, no longer red and gold, but simply present, hanging motionless in the still air. Dogyo Ninin 2 traveling together, you and Kobo Daishi, you and the path. You and the quiet that has been building inside you all day, temple by temple, step by step, until it fills you now like water filling a vessel, slowly, completely, without effort. The incense from the evening service drifts across the courtyard. Sandalwood and aloes wood, the same smell that greeted you at Ryōzen-ji this morning, the same smell that will greet you at every temple from here to Temple 88, on the other side of the island, in a valley you cannot yet imagine. The smell of the pilgrimage. The smell of walking and arriving and walking on. Your eyes are heavy. The bench is hard beneath you, but it does not matter. The tiredness is warm and total, a blanket drawn over the whole body, and beneath it, the mind is quieting, the day's images softening at the edges, becoming not memories but textures, not thoughts but feelings, not sharp but gentle, not urgent but slow. The path behind you stretches back through the valley, through the towns and temples and rice fields, all the way to the gate of Ryōzen-ji, where you stood this morning in the cool gray light and did not yet know what the day would hold. It holds all of it now, every step, every bell, every brushstroke, every breath. The path carries it for you so that you do not have to carry it yourself. The bell again, far away, a single deep tone that rises and holds and fades into the silence that follows, and the silence is part of the sound, and the sound is part of the silence. And together they are one thing, one long, slow breath that the evening is taking, and you are breathing with it. The red of the maple leaves in the darkness, the green of the moss on the stone, the gold of the persimmons on bare branches, the white of your hakui jacket in the evening air, the colors of the day fading now, dissolving into the soft gray of dusk, into the warm darkness behind your closing eyes. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. The words of the Heart Sutra, chanted 11 times today, settling now into the quiet of the mind like leaves settling on still water. Not understood, not yet, perhaps not ever, but felt, present, resting there in the place where words end and something else begins. The first day of the pilgrimage is done. You are here, at the edge of the mountains, in a temple courtyard, under a sky full of stars. Tomorrow the path climbs. Tonight, you rest, the staff beside you, the stamp book in your pack, the incense in the air, the silence in the trees, the long road ahead and the long road behind, and this moment, this still and perfect moment in between. Sleep comes the way the evening came, without hurry, without effort. The courtyard darkens. The stone lanterns fade to shadows. The last trace of incense dissolves into the cool night air, and you drift, gently, steadily, like a leaf on still water, into rest. The first day is done. 11 temples behind you, 77 ahead. Tomorrow, the path climbs into the mountains, through ancient forest to a temple perched high above the valley. But that walk belongs to tomorrow. Tonight you rest here in the quiet of the temple courtyard and let sleep carry you where it will. This episode was produced by The Long Road. Sleep well. Good night.